fully and in person. This is
teacher par excellence, a colleague, an engineer who came up with unconventional and out of the box yet simple solutions to complex problems. Above all, he was a very fine human being. As a small tribute to him, we have gathered here to share our memories of him. On behalf of his family, I extend a warm welcome to you all. We start today's program with a recorded invocation song by late Dr. Bharti Subba Rao.
Wait, shall we check the audio?
It works.
But me.
Can you check?
Have you unmuted it? Yes. Hey, check for sound. Yeah, check for sound. Yeah. ಕೇಳತ್ತಾ ಸರಿ ಓಕೆ we're going to play the song.
ಪವಮಾನ ಜಗದ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸಂಕರುಷಣ ಭವಭಯಾರಣ್ಯ ದಹನಾ ಶ್ರವಣವೇ ಮೊದಲಾದ ನವವಿಧ ಭಕುತಿಯ ತವಕದಿಂದಲೇ ಕೊಡು ಕವಿ ಜನಪ್ರಿಯ ಪವಮಾನ ಜಗದ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸಂಕರುಷಣ ಭವಭಯಾರಣ್ಯ ದಹನಾ ಪವನ ಹೇಮ ಕಚ್ಚುಟವು ಪವಿತ ದರಿಪ ಮಾರುತ ಕಾಮಾದಿ ವರ್ಗರಹಿತ ಕಾಮಾದಿ ವರ್ಗರಹಿತ ವ್ಯೋಮಾದಿ ಸರ್ವವ್ಯಾಪುತ ಸತತ ನಿರ್ಭೀತ ರಾಮಚಂದ್ರನ ನಿಜ ದೂತ ರಾಮಚಂದ್ರನ ನಿಜ ದೂತ ಯಾಮಯಮಕ್ಕೆ ನಿನ್ನಾರಾಧಿಪುದುಕೆ ಕಾಮಿಪೇನಗಿದು ನೇಮಿಸಿ ಪ್ರತಿದಿನ ಈ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಸುಖ ಸ್ತೋಮವ ತೋರುತ ಪಾಮರಮತಿಯನ್ನು ನೀ ಮಾಡಿಪುದು ಪವಮಾನ ಜಗದ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸಂಕರುಷಣ ಭವಭಯಾರಣ್ಯ ದಹನಾ ಪವನ ವಜ್ರ ಶರೀರ ಗಂಭೀರ ಮುಕುಟಧರ ದುರ್ಜನವನ ಕೂಟಾರ ದುರ್ಜನವನ ಕೂಟಾರ ನಿರ್ಜರ ಮಣಿ ದಯಾಪಾರ ವಾರ ಉದಾರ ಸಜ್ಜನರಗ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಸಜ್ಜನರಗ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಅರ್ಜುನ ಗೊಲಿದಂದು ಧ್ವಜವಾನಿಸಿ ನಿಂದು ಮೂರ್ಜಗವರಿವಂತೆ ಗರ್ಜನೆ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಗೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಜ ಪದದ ದುಳಿ ಮಜ್ಜನದಲ್ಲಿ ಭವವರ್ಜಿತ ನೆನಿಸೋ ಪವಮಾನ ಜಗದ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸಂಕರುಷಣ ಭವಭಯಾರಣ್ಯ ದಹನಾ ಪವನ ಪ್ರಾಣಪನ ಉದಾನ ವ್ಯಾನ ಸಮಾನ ಆನಂದ ಭಾರತಿ ರಮಣ ಆನಂದ ಭಾರತಿ ರಮಣ ನೀನೇ ಸರ್ವಾಧಿಗೀರ್ವಾಣ ತ್ಯಮರರಿಗೆ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಧನ ಪಾಲಿಪವರೆಣ್ಯ ಧನ ಪಾಲಿಪವರೆಣ್ಯ ನಾನು ನಿರುತ್ತದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನೆಸಗುವೆ ಮಾನಸಾದೆ ಕರ್ಮ ನಿನಗೊಪ್ಪಿಸಿದೆನೋ ಪ್ರಾಣನಾಥ ಸಿರಿ ವಿಜಯ ವಿಠಲನ ಕಾಣಿಸಿಕೊಡುವುದು ಭಾನು ಪ್ರಕಾಶ ಪವಮಾನ ಜಗದ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಸಂಕರುಷಣ ಭವಭಯಾರಣ್ಯ ದಹನಾ ಪವನ.
Now I request Govind Krishna, MGS's son, to give a brief introduction into the engineering traditions in the family.
Good morning, everybody. It's great that all of you joined us. And, you know, we as family members of MGS have a different perspective and different knowledge about him. You as colleagues and students have a completely different perspective. Uh, so this is an opportunity for us to share what we in the family know about him, and also to learn from all of you what you knew about him, because many of that we did not know. So I'll just run through very quickly the history, right? His father, M.A. Govind Rao, was called MAG. He did his PhD in England and came back to India. He started the chemical engineering department in Indian Institute of Science along with Dr. C.V. Raman. Okay. And afterwards, AC College of Technology in Guindy invited him to start chemical engineering in Chennai. So he went across to Chennai and started chemical engineering in AC College of Technology. Okay. And when he started that, World War II was in progress. So, and very early days of engineering. So there was no ready-made equipment available at all. And huge shortage of anything, steel, anything which you wanted to buy, cement, everything was in short supply because of the war. In fact, the early days, the classes were conducted under a tree. So the building was built, and just he had to start the laboratory on his own. So he completely developed the laboratory in AC College of Technology. Doing this, he became an expert glass blower. So much of the equipment he personally created with his own hands. At this time, MGS, as my dad is commonly known to all of you, was a student as well as later a lecturer in AC College of Technology. So he saw this entire laboratory being set up there, and then he came over to KREC in the early days. And when he came, the 1965 war with Pakistan was on, and again, no equipment available, shortage of all raw material. This is the situation he faced. And so he set up the complete laboratory, fabricating much of the equipment, and the students helped him. Some of the students who were there in those days and colleagues who were there in those days would remember all that happening, and I'm sure it was an exciting time. Professor Anant, who is the ex-director of IIT Madras, was MGS's student. So he just sent me a message saying that the laboratory that was set up in KREC for the chemical engineering was an extraordinary one. It was far better than the laboratory in any other institute. And he's talking even of IIT Madras till around the 90s. And he said in the 90s, it probably cost 10 times as much to bring up a laboratory to the conditions that MGS had created there. So that was what he recently shared. Just a few days back, he shared that. And as a result of that, AC College of Technology as well as KREC, what has happened, many colleges in Karnataka as well as Tamil Nadu have this setting up the laboratory on their own has kind of become a tradition. Now, of course, new colleges don't do that, but SIT Tumkur also something similar happened. Pondicherry also something similar happened, is what many people have shared. Hello. Oh, okay. This is slightly better. So that is the situation. So I chose to become a mechanical engineer rather than a chemical engineer. But MGS's brother's son, who was named after his grandfather, Govind Rao, has become a chemical engineer. He is now Director Center for Advanced Sensor Technology and Professor Department of Chemical, Biochemical and Environmental Engineering in UMBC in Maryland. Okay, and so he is a third generation of chemical engineers. My son Prahlad is also a chemical engineer who is working as an assistant manager in the process engineering department in L&T Chiyoda. He started his career in MCF. So he's a fourth generation chemical engineer. Okay. So this is our family tradition of engineering. I just spent a few minutes talking about what we call Subba Rao solutions, right? He was, Appa was a very much hands-on person. For him, everything is an engineering problem which needs to be solved. And that's what he used to do. And he used to always tell me about a story that one of the heaters in MCF, there was a hot spot forming on the skin. So the management called him, he looked at it and said, just spray some water on it. It's okay, you don't have to worry about it. But which is his simple, practical solution, saying that it's not becoming that hot and it should be okay. And he used to tell me that the management said, no, this is not okay. I mean, how can we do such a solution? So they contacted, I think Ude was the consulting firm at that time with MCF. Ude sent back a complicated diagram saying, place a water jet this many meters from this much volume of water, this is the angle, and and they charged obviously a ton of money for all that, right? But basically it was the same solution, and this is what my brother and I refer to as Subba Rao solutions. That simple, practical, inexpensive, right? Those are that's the way he used to do it, and that tradition is also continued. I still remember in my college days in the summer, I'd gone for training to Mysore Kirloskar in Harihar. Mysore Kirloskar used to make lathes and machine tools and sell it to the railways. They were facing a huge quality control problem because there was a the decibel level of the gears in the gearbox of the lathe had to be below a particular level, and they were really struggling. So I went there as a summer trainee. I went through that. Nobody told me about that, but I had studied in IIT Madras, and the lathes in our lab there used to be so silent. And when I walked here, this lathe used to be screaming. Right? And I said, why? So I investigated and found what was the problem. And this, when I discussed it, they said, no, this is a serious problem you're facing, but how do we solve it? And the solution involved buying a very expensive machinery. So I said, give me 2 days. So I went and studied the entire process. And I came back and told them, after precise calculation, put a piece of sellotape here and a piece of sellotape here. Your problem should be solved. They tried it and the problem was solved. Again, a typical Subba Rao solution. My cousin Govind, who is in Maryland, he has come up with some outstanding Subba Rao solutions. We have a video by him, and he will be talking about that. Prahlad also suggested a Subba Rao solution in MCF. Prahlad, will you come and share that?
Hello, good afternoon. So, the Subba Rao solution, as such, as my father is referring to, is when I joined MCF, I was in the technical service. When I was in the technical service department, for decades, what has happened is that first in the ammonia plant, you have the primary reformer, secondary reformer, HT catalyst, and after some heat exchanging and other equipments, you have your LT catalyst. So for decades, what is happening is you have to heat all the primary reformer, secondary reformer, and HT catalyst using nitrogen, which is introduced in the primary reformer. So my HOD, I think, sorry, my deputy HOD, he had experience in some other plants, and he said the HT catalyst is being heated by firing in the primary reformer, and it has to carry all the way down till the HT catalyst. So you're taking lots of time to heat up that HT catalyst. So we have, for the LT catalyst, we have a separate steam heater. So which is used primarily just to heat the LT catalyst when we bring it online. So actually, when we are heating the HT catalyst, the LT steam heater is lying dormant. There is steam available, the heater is available for use, but it was not being used. So I suggested, we can have a tapping from the inlet of the HT line to the steam heater, and heat it in the steam heater and send it back to the HT catalyst, so that you can heat it independently of the primary and secondary reformer. And this just involved, two tappings from the existing line to the steam heater, and the shell of the steam heater had to go up one rating so that it would be suitable for the higher pressure gas. So with this way, no installation of any equipment, no big investment, no civil work, nothing, just a small few two tappings and increasing the shell rating.
So he also continues the Subba Rao solution tradition. And now I'd like to share a few simple Subba Rao solutions. You see this flower, how is it there? Okay, how is the flower staying there? Like here, it's clear. My father in the puja room, we have many photographs and all pictures. So he wanted to put one flower for each photograph. So he carefully took a wire and pliers and created a 3D shape, which you just fit on the frame, and it allows you to put some flowers. So we have these things on every photograph in our puja room. Yeah, it's very simple. It's just GI wire, and he's folded it in this shape, and it's put, and all our puja room, the flowers are put very carefully. My brother, later in one of the videos, he'll be sharing another Subba Rao solution which we had. And Ramurthy, I think 1976 batch, told me what I thought was excellent Subba Rao solution. He says they were creating handmade paper from bagasse, so they needed a digester. So my dad looked at, they gave my dad the plan, so they had planned to procure a ready-made digester from the market. My dad looked at them. Why don't you just use a pressure cooker? And they said, okay, we'll try, and that worked, right? And so this saved a lot of money to the department by not doing this. Sriniketan, who was my colleague of my dad, tells me that, today we're all used to this hydraulic door closers. In the early, that's reason not there. But the chemical engineering department uses a pulley and counterweight system to close all their toilet doors in the chemical engineering department. And that is still functioning. I don't know when it was installed. It's been functioning. Nothing is required. It works perfectly. And nowadays you have, blackboards which you can roll up and down. But he had built these rolling blackboards much ahead of that. So we have this tradition. We tend to be engineers, and we tend to come up with what we call Subba Rao solutions. That's all I wanted to say. I'm so glad all of you could come today.
I now request Dr. P.N. Singh to come and share his memories with MGS.
I'm quite comfortable. I was saddened when suddenly I got a message that Professor Subba Rao is no more. I immediately tried to talk to one of his close friend, relatives, and nephew, Professor P. Srinivas Rao, that look here, I have received a message of this. He said, yes, it is true. Said, I would like to rush and convey my heartfelt condolences and my respect to Professor Subba. Then he informed me that cremation will take place around 3 p.m. And I rushed and I met, I saw, and it's a great loss for me, and I can understand what would be the loss to the family members. So my heartfelt condolences to Govind Krishna and all the members of families, all the near and dear friends of Professor Subba Rao. One need not have an ideal condition, nor one should have the support of fancy technology. Subba Rao was a person, I mean, already many things have been told about him by Krishna, but I have learned he has been my mentor, and I have learned all that what I am today. I was for over 22 years his colleague. Krishna gave you that was the Pakistan war. Before Pakistan war, we had China war, 1962 end. And after the China war, we were in a very precarious situation financially. I'm talking about the country. And at that time, Principal Dr. Adke wanted to start chemical and metallurgical engineering. Government of India was not in favor of that. But somehow his access to the state government was so much. I'm talking about Dr. Adke's access to the state government was so much that he could convince the state government, and it was started. Government of India said, I have just 5 lakh rupees for you. I'll give 5 lakh for chemical engineering, 5 lakh for metallurgy, and I have no other funding. I won't give you any. This 5 lakh is for the building, for machinery, and for all other facility, furniture, whatever you want. This is the 5 lakh. At that time, I think even the building could not be constructed because Dr. Subba Rao has planned 21,000 square feet. That building at this moment will cost somewhere 15 to 20 crore rupees, and he had just 5 lakh. He has to build the building, and now he has all the time that he was a chemical engineer. I can tell you, he was far better a civil engineer. He took that challenge, and unfortunately, he had 3 hands were totally raw hands. They are just a pair of hands. They couldn't do much and they couldn't help Professor Subba Rao much. The first person to join him was his own student, Professor M.S. Kamath. He was just a graduate. He was working somewhere in Bombay. And when he heard Professor Subba Rao had joined at the head, as a head of department, as assistant lecturer. The other two person was Professor Charlu, and the next person myself. None of Subba Rao didn't have any chance to select these two guys, Charlu and me. From the government of India came a letter that these two guys will come and join the college Department of Chemical Engineering. So Professor Subba Rao, when he saw me, he thought I cannot be PNC. I said, I am PNC. He said, no, I don't, how do I take you? I thought a person with a beard and turban will come, as they say. Then he was the first, the faculty member of KREC at that time, whom I met. I came at 6 p.m. in the evening. I we went to the Dr. Adike's house. He was not there. So some guy from there brought me, and he just very nearby was Professor Subba Rao's house. So he was there and he said, this is the person who has come to join your chemical engineering. And then he asked me, what's your name? I said, P and Singh. How can we sing without a turban and beard? But thereafter he took me to the, all the three of us were totally raw in. And I can tell you that we have seen the labs, which were it was actually when I did the graduation, the labs were used to be run only once or twice, 2 days in a year, and in those 2 days you had to complete all types of the experiments. And I thought the Professor Subba Rao will not be able to do in 5 lakhs all these things. He designed chemical engineering the department. He himself supervised the entire things. The contractor used to give him only the workforce and the materials. He did it. And after the completion, even today you can go and see all the main building and every buildings in KREC during rainy season, it will be leaking except the chemical engineering. That was his knack of doing and getting the work done. By the time he completed the building, 5 lakh has gone. He used to get 15,000 rupees per year operating cost. And now he has to build the labs with that 15,000. The moment he went and says he wants to make the equipment, the finance department said all the equipments are the capital grants. You cannot use the operating money. So what he did, he said, all these things are the projects for students, and students will be doing the work. So most of the materials, whatever he has and whatever equipment, it was called as the projects for the graduates. And those were the rigs which we used till 2000, all the rigs. And that 15,000 rupees, you call it operating cost, you call it equipment, everything he did it in 3. He first built the fluid mechanics lab, later on mineral tracing lab, or the mechanical operation lab, and then heat transfer lab, mass transfer and kinetics, and subsequently the process control. And he did not give a proper perspective. One equipment I got a quotation. It was costing 2,500 rupees at that time. And Subba Rao says, why do you want? I'll get it done in less than 100 rupees that equipment I will get it done in the department. less than 100 rupees. That was the Subba Rao's approach in all the things. Uh, I was, the Subba Rao immediately when I'm a totally theoretician. And Professor Subba Rao, is brilliant engineer. He was not only very expert in the theory, but he was more expert in whatever things you tell him, he will implement and he will do. And I have two examples. We made the hot wire, thermometer, the hot wire, um, flow meters in the department, which was very difficult, and it used to cost 1.5 lakhs in those days. It would have now, I think it cost us less than 1,000 rupees. That was the Subba Rao's knack in getting the things done. You'll find what it says the door closure, automatic door closure. Even it is so simple things, and he did it, and it was working for years together in that. And that I think even now it is in everywhere that system was used. I was I didn't I had gone to Kanpur for doing my PhD. After coming back, I had no interest in staying. I had decided that I will be living. I had 3 years contract with Suratkal, and I will be living Suratkal. It was Professor Subba Rao. One fine morning, he came and he told me that he wants to have some help for me in building the department. And he narrated entire things. I agreed. I had told him that I would like to move to certain other institutions, and he says, it's fine. But expectedly, something unexpected happened, and that has completely changed our plan. And I talked to Professor Subba Rao. He says, "Look here, see, it's there." And but the thing that has turned out for me was, all again I say, the gift of Professor Subba Rao to me. As long he was in the department, I had absolutely no problem. Because most of the typical the subjects he would ask me to teach, and I was quite comfortable in that. He asked me, and he always used to tell me, Singh, there is a need of building this college. The departments and other things he did, there is a very much need, that the department, the college should be. And at that time, we were totally, it's a affiliated college. Most of us used to rush to the university. First, we were affiliated to Mysore University, and later on Mangalore University. He wanted some things that it should be done, it should go beyond that level. He started the PG course in 1971, and then he was trying that whether this institute can be, graded to the higher level. And he chose me that I will be the right person to take that work. So slowly he asked me to leave the department and go to the central administration. He, in 1987, he decided that HODs should be by rotation, and that particular scheme was accepted by the governing council of KREC. I was asked to take the headship, but I could not complete. I was only for 2 years as a head of the Department of Chemical Engineering, and I moved to the central administration as a dean of planning and development. And after that, everything is a history. That I was the last principal, or I am the last principal of KREC Suratkal. It got, during my regime, upgraded to the deemed to be university and happened to be the first director of uh, Surat. And I must give all this all this credit to Professor Subba Rao. But for his initiatives, I doubt I would have achieved anything in that. And subsequently, it so happened all the three of us, though the two more faculty members joined the Department of Chemical Engineering after three of us joining, Professor Dr. P.K. Karant and Dr. Anant Ram. Dr. P.K. Karant, within 3 years, he moved to MCF, and Dr. Anant Ram, after 4 years, he moved to ISRO. So we were the three, we used to be called the four pillars of the chemical engineering department. Professor Subba Rao was the main, and we three were somehow extending in the support. So when he left and asked me to build the department, I thought, and the college, then I thought it will be easy for me if I could call upon Professor M.S. Kamath and Dr. Charlu to the central administration. So after Professor Subba Rao retired, I requested Professor Kamath to take the Dean of Training, Dean of Planning and Development, and Dr. Charlu, the Dean of the Students' Welfare. And by that time, I had become the principal. And it so happened, all the three of us in the same order took the voluntary retirement. First, Dr. M.S. Kamath took the voluntary retirement, and he went and he joined a private engineering college, and he built that college from the scratch. Professor Charlo thereafter took the voluntary retirement. He went to Hyderabad and started a chemical engineering department in a new college. I was left. I also took the voluntary retirement in 2003. And I am at present engaged in improving the technical education in the whole of the country. And whatever he taught me, I think to a large extent, I have been able to, many of the things to achieve. So full credit to Professor Subba Rao. First, I was asked by the government of India to take the chairmanship of NIT Agartala. NIT Agartala was destroyed by insurgent. In 2006, I was asked that I should take up the chairmanship. And when I entered there, 2,000 army people were camping that campus. And that situation, I somehow managed to do, and I was the chairman for 8 years. After the chairmanship, and again, the credit goes to the great person, Professor Subba Rao. All whatever he taught, how do you encounter the insurgent, how do you pocket the insurgent, all this was taught by Professor Subba Rao. He was working whole life, he has two tenets. One was that allow your juniors to express their feeling, never prevent them from, allow them to take, the whatever they want to say, listen to them. And second was never disregard the seniors' comments and never take it in a adverse terms. And these two things I utilize fully to control the insurgents. And finally, that college is built, and it is now for anybody to go and see the college. So I could give the full credit to Professor Subba Rao. When he said that you have to build the technical education, after 2014, I relinquished the chairmanship of NIT Agartala. Then I became a part and parcel of NBA, National Board of Accreditation. And I would have visited over 300 engineering colleges and universities, which are where the engineering courses have been offered. And I can tell you still, nowhere I saw the knack that Dr. Subba Rao had. As an engineer, I again say he was not only a chemical engineer, he was an engineering engineer in all respect, be it civil, be it mechanical, be it electrical, and anyway, he was chemical engineer. I would also like to correct Govind Krishna in one sense. Professor Govind Rao came and started PG course and at Indian Institute of Science, which was the Tata Institute at that time. In 1921, Dr. Hiralal Roy, Professor Gobind Rao, and Dr. Mane and Dr. Kane. Kane was the UDCT's principal. Mane was LIT's. These four people met at Calcutta. They decided to start the undergraduate chemical engineering course in India. Not only in India, it was in Asia. So Professor Gobind Rao is a contributor to start the chemical engineering course in whole of the Asia. And whatever he narrated, I think Professor Subba Rao matched whatever he narrated about Professor Gobind Rao. Professor Subba Rao matched in every respect. Not only that, I said it's chemical engineering genes in the family. I was told your great grandfather was also a teacher and he was a chemist. And chemist was, he was also having lot many other things which were mostly practical things. How to start from the test tube, create same materials in larger quantity from the test tube experiments. And that's what Professor Subba Rao used to tell us about his grandfather. So I think entire family, it's genetically. Now, Prahlad is the chemical engineer, and I'm sure somebody will be in the lower generation, somebody will come up as that. I'm sure you will not. The chemical engineering, these things will continue. Maybe Dr. Govind may have somebody there who who again become the chemical engineers. So the friends, let me just to sum it up. Professor Subba Rao was a genuine person. He was very, very, a person very polite. He would fight for the cause, but he was the two tenants. He will never try to defy the person and refuse to accept the order, but he will put his points very forcefully to anybody. And I have seen him, fighting with the administration and things, the other people in the institution. So he has these two tenants, and I am sure many of our uh, students and others are doing. He was a class one year. I saw him playing the tennis. He was a very good hockey player. And in KREC, he was the first chairman of a sports club. He was appointed soon after he joined the KREC in 1965, and he remained the chairman till 1975, the sports club. And today, whatever facilities was created by him still remains in the sports facility. He had absolutely no money for building this gym building. So one day he goes to the account section, and they were at that time each student was paying 1 rupee towards the sports function, 1 rupee per year per student. He found that 1 lakh rupees had been credited, and nobody, when the principal was not knowing about that fund. So got that fund immediately, and the gym building was built by and constructed by him. Again, he was the architect of the entire things. So I think it's very difficult for me to close at this point. But nonetheless, I don't want to rob the time of other speakers. I had learned a lot, and I will never forget. He was my mentor, and I will be all the time inspired by his works and by his teaching to a person, to a engineer like me. Thank you very much, friends.
Thank you, sir. It shed light on facets of his personality which we were not aware of or we didn't get to see. Thank you. Okay. Now I request you to share your memories of MGS. Please introduce yourself, the batch you studied in, and what you're doing now. We start with those who said they would like to speak. Dr. Rekha. Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. It is not so good opportunity to speak about Subba Rao because he is not with us. But then it is also a good opportunity to speak about the people who have made a mark in our lives and to share. And it's this opportunity. I'm so glad that our another teacher is sitting in front of me. So I take this opportunity as a blessing, even though I'm feeling not so good inside. I joined chemical engineering in 1985, 85, 89. I graduated in 89. I had an opportunity to learn from Professor Subba Rao. He has taught me two subjects. One is process calculation. The other one is engineering economics. Okay. And Professor P.N. Singh has taught me mass transfer. And our batch, what I was told was it is a special batch. All of them are very studious and focused towards studies. Until then, getting distinction was very difficult. In our batch, most of them used to get distinction. And if I recall, I hear my daughter speaking about her teachers and departments. She has a lot of problems she has to tell every day. But then I was sitting there and trying to recall how did my 4 years go. I don't even remember one problem that I faced in the department. I really want to express this to you. And sir is here. And when all the team members, all the faculty members, I would definitely love to take this opportunity and remember all of them. There was no tension. We have not missed any class. If it is 9 o'clock class, 5 minutes to 9, everybody used to be there in the class. That's how we have spent all the 4 years. And sir had introduced a special way of calling students. They never used to call with the first name. It's a full name. So I remember each of my classmates with a full, complete name. And all my classmates have sent their tribute to sir. And they have requested to name them in this program. So I would have definitely love to name them. See, if it is Raghavendra, it is not called Raghavendra. He said Raghavendra Sangam. Yes, sir. Like this. So Abhijit Nanded, I'm taking all their names and giving the tribute to our beloved professor. Raghavendra Sangam, Abhijit Nandedkar, Vijay Pratap Singh, Ashima Bodur, Ashini Matti, Premalata Gadak, Sushil Navnale, Dhirendra Kumar Singh, Raghavir Nayak, Krishnananda Kamath, Vishwanath Hegde, Sri Arun, Ramananda Bhatt, Pravin Nandagiri, Santosh Shanbag, Sanjay Padaki, P. Srinivas, Sujesh Govindan, Sandeep Paharia, Sandeep Revankar, Rajiv Mukhopadhyaya. We used to also have some here users who used to join us. One, Mr. Krishnappa. My husband is also a chemical engineer. He joined me in the 8th semester. He is Dr. Vinod Kallur. He is presently the head of the department in RV College of Engineering, Chemical Engineering Department. Then we have Rajiv Pai. We have two of my classmates who is no more. One is Kirtana and Rana Sapui. Okay. I was recently I was given a challenge about 10 years back. There was some problem and I was asked to teach chemical engineering. After I graduated 1989, I have not seen any of my chemical engineering books. Of course, my husband is a professor. I have a lot of books at home, but I have not opened one chemical engineering book after that. I shifted my profession to entrepreneurship. I'm presently working with MS Rama Engineering College, and I teach, train, and mentor students in entrepreneurship. But the challenge was given to me to go to sixth semester biotechnology department and teach bioreaction engineering. Okay, and this happened in 2013. That is about 25 years after my graduation. You will not believe, sir. You will not believe. One day gap. Next day I have to go to class, and I have been rated number one. I have been rated number one. It is such a blessing that I have this opportunity. I have learned chemical engineering and spent 4 beautiful years at NITK Suratkal. Even today, I can openly take the challenge. Give me 1 week's time. Ask me to teach mass transfer. Ask me to teach engineering economics, which was taught by sir. I will do it beautifully. I have not opened those books even today. So that is the confidence that I have. And sitting there, I was trying to recall all the things that he has taught us. Engineering economics, the present value, the future value, and the future value converted to the present value. I still remember how he has taught me.
Can we?
I also take this opportunity to thank and remember all my teachers. P.N. Singh, Dr. Divakar Rao, D.V.R. Murthy, Dr. Sudhakar Naik, Dr. Sriniketan, Dr. Gopal Magaraya, Dr. Sundar Murthy, Dr. Kamath, Dr. Charyulu, Dr. Ranganathaya. And if I have forgotten somebody, please excuse me. On behalf of all my classmates, my husband, because both of us are chemical engineers from Suratkal, my family, I thank and give my tribute to the professor. And I also thank Mr. Krishna for arranging this opportunity and making us meet all of you. Thank you so much, and thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Mr. K.L. Suresh. So that's why I said, please introduce yourself and let us know what you're doing.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, actually. I deem it a great privilege to be able to stand here and say a few things about Professor Subba Rao, who I hold in the highest regard. Thank you, Krishna, for giving us this opportunity. We have heard a lot already about the kind of person Professor Subba Rao was. A quintessential academic, a superb engineer, and his engineering skills spanned the entire spectrum of engineering disciplines. And as Professor Singh said, it was not confined to chemical engineering. He was a total engineer. He was a great administrator. He built up the department from scratch and made it one of the foremost engineering departments at that time, as long as he was there. And above all, he was a very warm human being. I'm sorry, I tend to get a little emotional, but he's a great mentor, a very warm human being, and very humble. His humility was there for everyone to see. He wore his scholarship, his various credentials lightly, and never flaunted them. Let me recall some of my experiences with Professor Subba Rao. My first acquaintance with Professor Subba Rao was in my first year. By the way, I should have introduced myself at the start. I belong to the 1979 batch of chemical engineering. We did a 5-year chemical engineering course. One of my classmates, Mr. Srinivas Murthy, is also sitting here. And so after that, I went to IISc, did my master's, and then I went to Monash University to do my PhD. And I'm currently teaching at IIT Bombay. That is my introduction. So as I was saying, my first memory of Professor Subba Rao was, I had barely 2 months after joining the college. And of course, in the first year, you don't go to the department, right? You are doing physics, chemistry, maths, and these courses. But I had an opportunity because I created an opportunity for myself because for some reason I had won a prize, and that prize allowed me to purchase some books. So on. And any other person would have probably dismissed me with a curt suggestion of, you buy these books and that'll be the best way you can spend your money. Not so Professor Subba Rao. He talked to me for quite a few minutes, and then advised me to buy the 3-volume set of Coulson and Richardson and the chemical kinetics book on chemical kinetics by J.M. Smith. And I made really good use of those books, and they are a wonderful gift from Professor Subba Rao, I would consider. And more than the content of those books, it inculcated in me the habit of reading. And that is the most important gift anyone could give me. So, and then we as we came into the third year, our classes began to be held in the chemical engineering block. Incidentally, at that time, chemical engineering and I think metallurgy were the only 2 departments which had their own blocks. Otherwise, all the other departments used to have their classes in the main building. So we had our own block, and we were very proud of it. And Professor Subba Rao taught us the subject of equipment design. Total clarity on the subject, total mastery on the subject. And one of the reasons why I still remember that course is many years later, when I started teaching at IIT Bombay, Professor Narayan Murthy, who used to be the head of the department at that time, he had been taught by Professor Subba Rao in AC Tech. So he calls me one day to his office and says, Suresh, I have a difficulty finding an instructor for this course on equipment design. Will you take it up? My PhD was in a totally different area, and my expertise, my research area was also different. So I must have sounded a little hesitant. And then Professor Narayan Murthy said, I have a good reason for asking you. I and you were taught design by the same person. And I, knowing that person, I feel pretty sure that you have grasped the subject and you will not do a bad job in teaching it. So, that the kind of confidence that he inspired in in his students about knowing the subject was something remarkable. The next, after I left the college, of course, I was away abroad for some years and all that. And then when I came back and started my career in IIT Bombay, about 1 or 2 years after I had joined IIT Bombay, there was a IICHE annual meeting in Mumbai. And I had an opportunity to meet Professor Subba Rao there. He was full of warmth and he remembered me, which was great. And he inquired after me what I was doing and so on, and he was so affectionate. And then again, there was quite a few years passed before I could meet Professor Subba Rao again. But the last time I met him was in 2017, and KREC, now NITK, have done a wonderful thing by instituting a named lecture series in Professor Subba Rao's name. And it fell to my lot to deliver one of those lectures. And when I went to deliver that lecture to NITK, I remember Krishna was also there with Professor Subba Rao and Govinda Rao. Professor Govinda Rao was also there on that occasion. So as I met Professor Subba Rao himself was there, of course, and he was very happy to see me, and he inquired after. My wife was also there with me, so he met both of us. And as I stood to deliver that lecture, it suddenly dawned on me that the previous occasion on which I was speaking and Professor Subba Rao was in the audience was when I was some 38 years ago, when I was defending my BTech project. And Professor Subba Rao had a lot of searching, inconvenient questions at that time. So I started my lecture by recounting that and said, hopefully you will let me off easily this time. But he was all appreciation for my talk, and then that was a great occasion to meet and interact with him. We were together for about a day, if I recall correctly. He was frail at that time, but I recall that he was mentally very alert, and he also looked quite fit. So I was pretty sure that I will see him celebrate 100 years. But unfortunately, that was not to be. I was told that his end was peaceful. That's a great gift. So his memory, of course, will live forever in my mind. As I stand here, so many thoughts crowd into my memory. And once again, I express my gratitude to Krishna and the rest of the family for arranging this wonderful event and giving me an opportunity to come here and speak. Thank you.
Thank you. I call upon Mr. Shyam Sundar Adyananta. Adyantaya. You don't have to, confine yourself. Whatever is comfortable.
It's a solemn occasion today, but I must say I'm happy to be here to be paying tribute to one of my mentors. My name is Shyam Sundar Adyanaya. I'm from the 1981 batch of chemical engineering. I was very happy to meet Professor P.N. Singh here, who also happens to be one of my mentors. Now, over the years, it's been nearly 40 years since I've passed out from the institute. And as I reflect back, what is education? Education is not just about the subjects that we learn, because various colleges, you can do it on the internet today. You could learn a subject on the internet. But it is more about the influences that you have during those 5 years that we spent in the college. And we were lucky that we were a 5-year batch and we had 4 years with the chemical engineering department. Those 4 years were full of influence for me, and I should say that they shaped my life and my thinking in the way that I am where I am today. I did do hardcore chemical engineering for about 5 years as a process engineer at Indian Oil's Mathura refinery. And then I shifted over to management, during which time I continued to be associated with chemical engineering for another 17 years. And then in the past 18 years, I'm completely out of chemical engineering. But the other aspects that I learned, for example, I got heavily involved in extracurricular activities in my 4th and final year. And I was the joint convener of the incident committee, and we set up the festival as it still runs today. I was the convener in the final year. And obviously, all of this had a huge impact on my academic performance. But I must say that at no time was the drop in my academic performance ever highlighted by any of my chemical engineering professors, which ended up being a great source of encouragement as far as I was concerned, because that is what I continue to do through a large portion of my career, where I continue to look for improvements, continue to look for simple improvements, as Krishna mentioned. A point I would recollect is when Professor Singh mentioned about his civil engineering capabilities. In fact, the Student Activity Center that was built in 1980 was with him as the helm of that project, with me as an active student member of that project. And that is where whatever Professor Singh recollected came to the fore for me. I'd like to leave this brief. Again, I thank Dr. Subba Rao for all that he has influenced in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite Mr. Prasad. Okay. Okay. No, okay, that's fine. The floor is now open to anybody else who would like to come and share their memories. Only request is to restrict it to 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, come.
I'm Raghuram from 1965, entry into Surathkal and graduated in 1970, second batch of metallurgists at Surathkal. My association, which is very different to what most of you have spoken, my association is more than 60 years. He's my first cousin, my elder brother, more or less. So he's a part of my family. And right from our childhood days, we have seen him as a bachelor and with our family. So my association with him is not just as a professor, but somebody who's been with us for all these years. So for me, so naturally I took full advantage of his knowledge, his association, and his depth of everything that he does. So he's been my guide, not just the 5 years that I was in Surathkal, but forever. So that's the type of relationship he's been having on all of us. And of course, there were a few good things that happened. The only way I was ahead of him was I joined Surathkal 10 days before he joined. That's the only way I was ahead of him. He joined about 10 days after I joined Surathkal. Maybe it was also nicely exploited because most people came to know that he's my first cousin, and so nobody dared drag me during second year. So that's another plus point that I had during my thing. But otherwise, at a personal level, even when we were in Surathkal, it was purely a family relationship when I used to go to his house every Sunday evening, have dinner at home with the family. And after that, it was all purely professional. That's a person who was able to clearly distinguish between personal priorities and professional priorities. Never we could get any advantage just because he was my cousin and I was in the same college. At the same time, he also took a few courses for us, I think, in mineral dressing, and that's something that it's very rare to see somebody whom you see as a child sitting in front of you as a professor and talking to you. So that's the type of association. I'm also very happy that other members of the family are here. Professor Srinivas Rao, with whom he was there also from the first batch of Suratkal. Professor Srinivas Rao also took our classes. And of course, from my batchmate, I see Mr. K.S. Bhatt and Karan. So happy that our 1970 batch is here. Thank you very much, all of you. And of course, from the family side, thank you all for coming and giving your best about Dr. Subba Rao, who is for us forever my elder brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghuram. I request Govind Krishna to share a few of the messages received from many of MGS's students, former students.
There were a lot of messages which I received on mail and WhatsApp. I'll just read out for very few of them. So, Mr. Krishnamurthy Ambekar says, our beloved Professor Subba Rao had made us design only one problem, design a distillation column. But it was so detailed that it included the tie rope design, the wind effect, the civil foundation bolt, and base flange design. That one design taught us heat and mass transfer, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, and instrumentation. So, like Professor Singh was saying, that it is not just the chemical engineering department was not just about chemical engineering, but all branches of.
You can say the batch.
I am sorry, I don't
73 batch.
73 batch. Yeah, that is. Thank you. So that is something, and he's here, but he sent me a message. Group Captain Simha said that
He's here.
yeah, he's here, but he's not come forward. But I'll tell you what he said. He says that he remembers Professor Subba Rao as our college Siddharth Basu quiz master. So conducting quiz competition, of course, Siddharth Basu is much younger than him, but he was involved in all the activities. He sports and all incident and all of that. He was so this thing. And one more. From Mr. Ramakant Hegde, his lecture classes by MGS were simply outstanding. Unlike all others who taught us preparing for the semester exam, MGS taught us how to tackle field problem, be it civil, mechanical, corrosion, wind, pollution, recovery, government laws, financing, write-off, insurance, startup, operation, emergency, safety, and maintenance. Whatever it could be under the sun, he made us prepared for all the situation. He made us read all chemical industrial periodicals reaching a college library. For each article, he made us prepare theme cards with a precise brief for future reference. He acted as our guide for higher studies within India as well as abroad, preparing us for our admission for the future courses in all technical fields, as well as management courses. Message from MS Anand, former director IIT Madras, who happens to be professor's student. He was in AC Tech. He was hands-on and brought his ingenuity to bear, especially in the laboratory. His enthusiasm was infectious, and the chemical engineering laboratories in KREC were among the best in India until the 90s, when many well-made experimental setups were acquired more than 10 times the cost. He often said that the engineer's skill in design lay in the economy achieved without sacrificing the purpose. He practiced effortlessly what he preached. So these are a few of the messages I cherry picked, but a lot of them have come, and it is so nice. We've talked about him more as an engineer, but he was also, and many of the messages I would not like to share them because they're so personal, saying that whenever the students were in trouble, they used to go to him and say, I don't know what to do. And he always used to help them. And I, many of the more personal messages, I would not like to share it out. But there were many messages saying that without him, I don't know where I would be today. And that's not something which we have discussed, but I think the emotions which came out from all the students regarding him, because that they knew that everybody knew that whatever the problem, I could go and ask him for help, and he would help us. And I think that is really touched the heart of so many people there. Anybody else wants to share?
You're welcome.
Okay. Otherwise, we have a few videos. We'll start with a video from my brother.
Somebody, yeah.
I would like to.
No, you'll be
We'll call you after the
After
videos.
the video.
Your special slot.
Do we have to switch off the light? Yeah.
Let's see how it looks. Stage light and
Okay, really, no?
Thank you, everybody, for coming, both virtually and in person. Welcome on behalf of my elders, my older brother, Govind Krishna, Thank you, everybody, for coming, both virtually and in person. Welcome on behalf of my elders, my older brother, Govind Krishna, GK to some, my middle brother, and I am Abhi, or Satyanarayan to some. Well, my father did have 3 children. My oldest brother, Govind Krishna, and 2 years after that, the chemical engineering department of KREC, and 2 years after that, I came into this world. My father was generous with his love and affection, and he treated us all equally and gave us all an equal amount of love and dedication. And we have no reason or rancor, and we have no reason to be upset, to be upstaged by the Department of Chemical Engineering. You know, it's after all, my middle sibling will probably carry the legacy of M.G. Subba Rao and Professor M.G. Subba Rao much further than his human children ever could dream of. And the crowd assembled here is ample proof of that, I believe. While you know of M.G. Subba Rao, the professor, let me talk about the man, M.G. Subba Rao. He was an engineer. Yes, he was an engineer when he was in the department, but he was an engineer deep down into the core of his being, in a way. Let me illustrate this with a story. My mother made rava laddus, and rava laddus were really quite the best I've had, and a very fond childhood memory. There was perfectly roasted rava with ghee and sugar and cardamom, raisins and cashews, and like I said, a very fond memory. And it was very popular at family gatherings, and we would make them and take them there. She would make these laddus and put them in stainless steel containers. And these get-togethers would sometimes be in places like Bangalore or Madras. Now, so this container would go with us and the night bus from Mangalore to Bangalore, and humans barely made it. The rava laddus never stood a chance. At the end of the trip, there would be crumpled powder was all that was left of the rava laddus. They would be, stirred into some hot milk and served as payasam or kheer. So for my father, this posed an engineering problem. And that's how he approached this. He built this contraption. It was a small stainless steel pedestal of sorts. And on top of that was a tube that fitted and articulated perfectly. And there was a steel rod, like a pipe, which fit into it like a piston into a cylinder. And the way this was accomplished was there was an assembly line. My mother would start the task by taking a small handful of the prepared rava laddu mix and put it inside that tube. My father would tamp it down with that steel piston, shall we say, and he would put a metal or a wooden block on top of this. And my task was to hammer it down as hard as I could and provide the compressive force necessary. And after this was done, my father would extrude this perfectly formed cylindrical rava laddu. And then we would, like a smoothly oiled assembly line, make perhaps 100 of these. And my father would assemble them in a spiral, almost in a hexagonal pattern at the base of a stainless steel container, and put a layer of newspaper and cloth, and there would be a second layer and perhaps a third layer, and they would be sealed and ready for transport. And every single cylinder survived. And they would be served at family weddings, and people would be mystified by this peculiar sweet dish until they bit into it and realized what it was. And this amused my father greatly. So that's how he was. An engineer down deep in from within his genes, almost. I mean, he got the engineering gene, I suppose, from his father, who was chemical engineering as well. And he passed that engineering gene to my brother. I, however, I think got the physician gene from my mother. And I did get some good genes from him too. I got perhaps the teaching gene. I teach medical students here, and it's a great joy and the best part of my job, and I enjoy it very thoroughly. And almost as much as he enjoyed teaching, I know. And then I also got the child-friendly gene. I'm a pediatrician, and my patients are not afraid of me. And a lot of them will come running straight up to me and give me a hug. And I know because deep inside, there's a Subba Rao in me. And well, so much. And I'm
because of Bharti auntie and Urpi aji. Urpi tata and he were very close in Suratkal and Mangur, Urpi, etc. But it was remarkable how he and Narayana would react with each other. A lot of mutual respect and admiration. And as a young kid, when you see these elders treating each other with so much respect, you realize that this is a person who is also greatly deserving of high respect. And obviously, my father and Chikappas all also a lot of respect for Subha. But I really think he kept his best for Apollo and me. His generosity to both of us was boundless. Even today, I associate a five-star with Subha. Every single time he met us, he would have a five-star. It's not unlikely that today you'll see me walking around with chocolates every time I go to meet very children. And that's simply my tribute to Subha uncle. We used to take Dhruva to a temple and Dhruva was a little kid every day. And Dhruva once came and told me that he really liked going with Subhu Tata to the temples. By the time Dhruva finished his 12th, Subhu uncle was already like 80 plus. But I can tell you that he was more engaged with his college admission process than I probably was. He would actually kind of step back and admire him and say, like, look at him so engaged in the whole process, and look at myself, I'm like he got a seat somewhere and he studied, but Subhu uncle was like, I thought he breathed easy only the day Dhruva got into college. And the other story is like completely and deeply personal. So sometime when I was in 10th standard, we were all sitting and preparing for NTSC exam, and I was in this I was with a bunch of kids who were like varying from mildly to vastly more intelligent than me. So I was sitting there and struggling with these problems and exercises and tests and all these things. And he saw me one day struggling with this, and I didn't tell him anything. Right? He just saw me. He said, "Come, I want to talk to you." And he made me sit next to me. And what he told me, I remember now his eyes when he told me this. I remember it as clearly now as he told me this 40 years ago. So he knew I was struggling with this. He told me, look, intelligence is not the only thing that matters. He said, I've seen so many intelligent people fall by the wayside because they didn't have the ability to work hard. He said, hard work is that one unrecognized component of success. He looked at me and said, so what you think you don't have, make it up with hard work. That's all there is to it. And he walked away. That was such a liberating moment. It was almost like some Bhima came and wagged the burden of expectations off my head and completely liberated me and freed me up. My whole approach to studying and thereafter my approach to anything was defined by that moment. It's not just talent, it's not just intelligence, but it's also hard work. And that's a lesson I put to work almost every day.
Uh, that lesson was something that my father passed on to many people, saying that, talking about the importance of hard work. And I think that came from his father. His father also believed strongly that hard work makes up for a lot of deficiencies that you may have. So don't worry if you don't have the intelligence or the talent. Work hard and you will do well. He used to say that, I think somebody also mentioned it in one of the things, in one of the comments just now in the YouTube live stream, saying that either you work hard when you're young and relax when you're old, or you relax when you're young and work hard when you're old. So it's a choice that you have. That was one of the things he used to tell many of his students. And hard work was something he believed strongly in. The other thing he talked about was, he was known as Chocolate Uncle. That's something that some of the KRC kids used to say that everybody used to call him Chocolate Uncle because he used to carry chocolate in his pockets all the time. So whenever he saw a kid, he'd be able to hand it out, and the kids all loved that. We'll play one more video now, and show that he walked the talk about the importance of hard work. So that next video will illustrate that he actually did that.
This is by Rupa.
Hi everyone, I'm Rupa. I am technically Govind Krishna's niece. So technically Subbu Tata is my grandfather of sorts. Another thing he told me once was when he was doing his PhD in UK, he found out at the end of 2 years of work that the machine he'd been using for measurements had a major calibration error, and that this could neither be hidden nor could it be brought out. And if it was brought out, it just meant all of the work he did those 2 years were really a waste. And more than anything, he said there was no meaning to the work that I had done in 2 years. All those readings, all that I was trying to find out was of no use. So he had 1 year left, and he had to put in 3 years of work in that 1 year left ahead of him. And I said, "So what did you do?" And he said, "Nothing. Every day from 7 till 10, 7 in the morning till 10 in the night, I was there in my lab doing what had to be done, and I came out of it." And it's just outstanding how he just gritted it out right there. These are stories one doesn't forget in a hurry, and we've just lost the greatest standing oak of our times. It's the end of an era, pretty much. Um, so, hugs to Govind, Krishna, and Abhi. Thanks for letting me speak. Bye. Hi everyone, I'm
The last video which I'll be playing now is of my cousin. The last video which I'll be playing now is from my cousin in the US. He's a chemical engineer. I've mentioned Professor Govind Rao. It is a fascinating video. I hope all of you look at and see how I mentioned that he had come out with some outstanding Subba Rao solutions, and I hope you enjoy this video.
Namaskara, Dodappa. This is a message for you on this happy occasion when you're supposedly entering Vaikuntha. I can't help imagine you doing that and looking around you in amazement at the amazing sight of Narayana, whose name you've always invoked throughout your life, lying on Adisesha with the lotus from his navel and the ocean of milk. And I can't help but imagine that the engineer in you would be thinking, I wonder what sort of pollution control they have to keep this ocean white all the time. Or I wonder how exactly that lotus is suspended from the navel on such a fine structure. That engineer in you is something I'm privileged to have inherited, and it's been such a part of my life. And I'm doubly privileged because in addition to carrying your academic legacy forward, which you inherited from your father, after whom I'm named, I also had the privilege of having you as an incredibly loving uncle who was part of everything that I did throughout my life. Starting professionally, it was very clear that you were a different thinker. You always looked for the practical solution, and I could see in myself more and more as the years went by that I inherited this strong streak from you and your father. Much of our engineering is what your students elegantly refer to as the Subba Rao solution, finding something that's optimal, finding something that does the job without spending a lot of money and does so in a very practical manner. And I'm really thrilled that some of this sort of jugaad plus high-tech engineering have combined in my own life. One of the things that I was very proud of to share with you was our cardboard incubator. Millions of babies die worldwide every year because they're unable to keep their temperature thermoregulated. And so this inexpensive, elegant solution of taking a piece of cardboard and cellophane and converting it into a servo-controlled incubator has successfully passed clinical trials. And I'm so proud that this will someday save millions of lives and continue to cement our legacy for low-cost, disruptive innovation. Another is our sort of something that was very dear to you because you always talked about chemical plant design, and is our entire pharmaceutical plant built into a suitcase. This is the biologically derived medicines on demand project. And someday I hope that this will make medicines at very low cost to help millions of people worldwide, including life-saving medicines like insulin, which Dodamma, your beloved wife, also depended on for so many years. And so that is all on the professional side. But on the personal side, you also showed me a life of incredible caring and sacrifice. You were probably the most considerate person I know, who always looked out for everyone else before themselves. And that has always inspired me. And in terms of all that you have done for your students, I try and do for my own students to help people who want to learn, to give them tools to succeed, and also to indulge in them, inculcate in them a capacity for lifelong learning. So it's been a real privilege, Dorapa, and one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is you were a great engineer. That was great, but beyond that, you were a good man. And so I'm really proud to be your nephew, proud to have known you all these years. And you can see from the messages that have come pouring in that you touched many, many lives. I remember many conversations we had, and one of the conversations you told me about was how you regretted not going into industry and how being an academic was something you never wanted to do. And I distinctly remember telling you that you've done more for industry as an academic than you would have if you had joined a company. No doubt you'd have risen to the top, but you would have just impacted one company. Here, through your students, the status of industry all over India. And so I think in many ways, God made you fulfill your desire of being in industry, but in an indirect way, and probably with a much broader impact than you ever realized. And I remember your reaction when we had that conversation. You said, I never thought about it like that. So there you are. You can now enjoy the bliss of Vaikuntha, and please continue to pour your blessings upon us. We will miss you very, very much. Thank you again.
Sharing your
Namaskar.
memories. Sharing your memories with us is enriching us, and we are truly blessed to be in Jesus' close family. I now call upon Sri MG's. No? I now call upon Sri G. Ramachandran to share his memories.
This is my father's younger brother, and
His favorite book.
This is a problem.
Wait 1 minute. I think you have to disconnect something and
Stays young
reconnect.
forever.
Yeah.
Who stays young
No,
forever.
he had no option as the only brother. So as the favorite.
He keeps the entire Malleshwaram alive.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Hello. Hello. Heard all the compliments and warm-hearted references to my brother, and somebody was very proud that 60 years he knew Subba Rao 60 years. Now I beat him hollow. I knew him for 90 years. So when he was 2.5, I was born, and till 93 we were all together, and his description as a human being, as a professor, as a teacher, can best be summed in two sentences. Like, he was a gentle person, and the elements were so mixed in him that nature could stand up and say to the whole world that here is a Sattvic professor, a Sattvic person, a heavenly soul that influenced all of us. We pay in life, we all know in life, we play several roles. You are a father, the Shakespeare himself says there are 8 stages of men. First you are a baby, then you come to consciousness, you become a student, you become a reluctant schoolboy, you become a playboy in your teens, then you get married, you play the role of a husband, play the role of a father, then you play the role of a grandfather, a great-grandfather, and a great-grandfather. Luckily for my brother, he had all the roles, including the roles of a teacher and a mentor to all the people who came nearby. Somebody was talking about the genes in the family, all chemical engineers and all that. I am the one exception. I was the one roguish branch in the whole family tree. I joined the police force. I'm a retired police officer. But as I said, the testing ground, whatever profession you do, whatever walk of life God puts into you, the test is the sincerity with which you perform. The testing rod is how much sincerity you have brought to your job, how much innovation you have come, how much you have influenced people around you. The job that you do is not important. How you do the job God has given you is the important thing that should decide a man. He had, Subbu scores a perfect 10 in all the roles that he had played. In my case, as a elder brother, his score is 11 out of 10. Why? Because I was a very troublesome younger brother. I was blessed. God blessed me with a very sensitive nose. Anybody touched me, pushed me, I would bleed through the nose. So all the fights which I started, I saw to it that he got punished for my parents. So I had a very blessed nose for winning all the battles which I fought with him. And the ups and downs, how one of the points that was made, the ups and downs, nobody can escape in life. The unavoidable ups and downs in life. He had his ups and downs, but one of the most startling downside of his life, probably I have to mention it, he was a very brilliant student in the class. He stood first in his BTech examination, and his father happened to be the chairman of the board of that examination board, which decides the marks and ranks. And when the whole totaled up, my father found that my brother was standing first in the university. That extraordinary virtue, beyond the call of virtue in him, made him. He said, I am his professor, I am his director. I don't want my son to be the first rank. People will talk, like Lord Rama, some idiotic washerman said something about Sita, he sent Sita out into the jungle. My father was something like that, because he thought somebody will start saying that the director's son has stood first in the university. He brought him down to the second rank. Can you imagine a more outlandish type of virtue which my family has brought into life? And that rankled him. Deprived of what you deserve, not that you got it out of any favoritism or partiality, that rankled him. But he did not allow it to affect his other characteristics of love, affection, family, teaching, job. He did not allow it, but it did rankle him. Another rankling which he did was he wanted to be an industrialist. He wanted to enter industry, but the circumstances in the family were such that his presence in Madras with the family, my father passed away at a young age of 54. My brother was 23 or 24. I was 19, and we had two sisters to be married and educated and all that. So family was not, in many ways, not in a very comfortable condition. But he changed. From his role as a brother, he became a role as a parent to all of us. He guided us, he brought us up, and till we settled down, either through marriage or through profession, he saw to it that he discharged his responsibility both as a brother and as a parent. And simple solutions. And one comic simple solution, Subba Rao solution was, I was a very mischievous kid. I told you I was the rogue branch of the family. Never good at studies, never proper. My teachers used to say he was in the sixth form, I was in the fourth form. So my mathematics teacher, found out that I am Subba Rao's younger brother. Sometimes playing mischief in the class, he used to say, Ramu, you're Subba Rao's brother? How come you are like this? Kind of thing. They used to make taunt me with that kind of this thing. And simple solution. I was so mischievous at home that when my father returned from Indian Institute of Science, my mother was pregnant with my younger sister Jaya. So when my father came back from office, he found my mother crying. He said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "As long as Ramu is around the house, I don't think the next child will be born safely. It may be a stillborn child." I was so mischievous, so destructive, so mischievous, so unlike my brother. So Subba Rao came there and said, simple solution. Said, you extern him to my grandfather's house. So they sent me off to my grandfather's house. My two sisters were well born and well. So one of Subba Rao's simple solutions. And then, but here I will be remiss if on this occasion I do not place on record the Ravana, is it? What is his name? The Shravana. What is his name? Who devoted his life to
Shravan Kumar.
welfare? Shravana Kumara. The Shravana Kumara, one set Shravana Kumara is there, one set Shravana Kumara you saw. Here is one Shravana Kumari, and there is the principal Shravana Kumari. The amount, when they're in a family, when he passed 80, when he crossed his 80th year, his faculties naturally, dementia set in. He was not physically, he became a little weak. Mentally, he was off the track. So the amount of care, the amount of readjustments they had to make within the family to look after him was something which nobody records it, what people expected to be doing. But as a former police officer, I was looking for any kind of evidence of fatigue, any kind of evidence of tiredness, any kind of evidence of not being 100% attentive. I could find none. Their devotion to their parents' welfare, and then their house, no philosophy. There is no dream in any philosophy that could describe the scenery in their house. The great-grandchild, 1-year-old Kumuda, where is she? She was making noise here. She's just gone out, I think. 1-year-old Kumuda and 94-year-old great grandfather. I mean, the quality of attention in that house, helped by her daughter-in-law, and, you know, her son, and sister, where is she? Yeah, Malti. All of them formed a very great team, and not a minute were their sights. They did not bat an eyelid in their concentrated attention on Dr. Subba Rao. And it was a funny scene in the house. We used to enjoy the scene. 1-year-old Kumuda running all over the place. 94-year-old great grandfather hopping along on his walker, and all of them trying to do traffic control. You know, all the people keeping Kumuda away from him and seeing that he doesn't fall on Kumuda or he doesn't crash into her great grandfather. One had to be cajoled into eating. The other man had to be forced into eating. Subba Rao will not eat his food properly, and there was she commanding, "Tini, a palya tini, a paisa kudiri," something like that. It looked as though she was sort of admonishing him and forcing to do things like that. One had to be lullabied into sleep. The other had to be forced out of bed to get up quickly, because he used to sleep for hours together, and she thought it might affect his metabolism because he slept so much. So whenever I went into their house, they said, "Ramu, go and wake up your brother, wake up your brother." So I had to go and wake up his brother like that, so that his metabolism is not affected. Such care, such this thing I'll miss him badly. Luckily, we were only 4 streets apart, so I could go to him quite often. And he used to come out, sit me, and talk to me. We used to do namaskar to him. And Devrella Olles Madli. Devrella Olles Madli. 100 times I have received his blessing that Devrella Olles Madli. I will miss him, miss his talk and blessing, though he didn't communicate much. His body language was there, his gestures were there, his attitude was there, a loving and caring person. Very difficult to find a person like that. And we will miss him badly. From heaven, I hope we'll receive his blessings. We'll miss him badly and miss Kumuda also badly, because this combination, both the batsmen are out. He is gone to heaven, and she is moving into her parents' house in the next few days. So all that I can say is Asato ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityur ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Ram Uncle. We thank you all for taking the trouble to come here to be with us today. I thank you all. Thank all of you who have sent messages also. I thank my family for having helped us organize this event. And I thank the staff of Rejoice for making this happen. We are going to create a digital memories compilation and share it with you digitally, I think online later. So in true MGS tradition, as a reminder of the dinner he used to host for his final year students, I request you all to join us for lunch in the first floor in the dining area. Thank you.